Which cheese is this?
This is a cheddar.
Aged cheddar. Aged, not smoked. Looks good so far.
These rows are the reason why I can experiment with the hotbed rows. I can experiment as much as I want with the hotbed rows because I have so much food up in the front garden. It's a year's worth of potatoes. It's a lot of beets. We already did peas. And we just kind of play with it. We do our best. And a lot of our food comes from the animals. And so it all kind of ties together. It's not like we're 100% dependent on the garden. We're not 100% dependent on the animals. All right, these are strawberries, radishes, onions, and clover. And what we're doing is picking out all the radishes to feed to the rabbits. So what you see is you see figs, you see sweet potatoes that are not stressed, you see pepper plants, and the reason you see that is because the hotbed is warm. It gives off just enough heat to keep everything in here from freezing. So from about a foot of row, I got all these beets. Muddy. Okay, pick, 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 pick. I'm really excited to have a smaller pig, and this is Thomasina, and she is our gilt that we're trying to turn into a sow. Huh, Mama? We take her to go get bread on Saturday. Because one's been processed and one hasn't.
Yeah. One's still in the brine bucket, the other's
So that's where they lay. Have these little sticks to run over. Food and water. This, I know that this looks really ugly that it projects out like this, but they really need the shade. Here's some eggs from a couple days worth of laying. We only have, I think we only...
one egg is right there.
Oh. Maybe I'll come around and get it. I'll just give you the ones I have for right now, honey.
Okay.
And tell Dad this is all of them for now.
Okay.
Wait, wait. I'm not finished. And we've got something eating the duck eggs. I don't know what. Thank you.
Probably the skunks. I am going out to my nanking tree bushes. I'm going out to our best nanking tree bush. It's this tiny one, small. It's our second one. The reason why we're hanging around this one more now is because it has the plumpest nanking trees ever.
So, this time of year, I can feel so whiny in my heart about gardening. I went out to try and get the hotbed started, and my hose end had been stuck in the snow the last time it was used, and so it was totally frozen. Not the hose itself, but the nozzle was fully frozen. I could have gone in, got a hot bottle of water, and tried to clear it really quick. But I decided I will wait until it's not -7 degrees Fahrenheit. It's a Saturday. On Saturdays, if the girls got all of their school done all week, they're allowed to listen to their audiobooks all day. And so, I don't need to be the bossy farm mom, the bossy homeschool mom. We've already got chores done. And I just don't have the energy to sit at the kitchen table. I just don't want to. I feel mopey. I feel mopey that it's so cold outside. I feel mopey that my hotbed isn't started yet. I feel mopey that I don't really have anything to do, I guess, is pretty much where that goes. Okay, I haven't tried this one before, but it looked amazing. Usually I use black gold, but I thought I'd try this one. It's supposed to have soil microbes. And you can hear Paige vacuuming right now. Sounds like I will need to come do my own room and clean up a little bit of my mess. But sometimes just making a little bit of a mess feels good, don't you think? Sometimes it's nice just to look at it and say, I don't care. Right now, I don't care. And right now, I want to be playing in dirt and getting it under my fingernails. And my hotbed is not ready. The nice thing is, because I have a hotbed, I can plant here pretty quick, probably within a few days. Whereas if I didn't have a hotbed, our last frost date is like June 28th. There we go. All right. This one says it has 1,000,001 different types of bacteria in it. Microbes, microRhizae. And then the other ingredients are peat moss, perlite, dolomite, lime, alfalfa meal, fish bone meal, fish meal, potassium sulfate, humic acid, kelp meal, endo and ecto microRhizae, beneficial soil microbes, kelp flower, wetting agent, and gypsum. So that has a lot more ingredients in it than what I usually use in a potting mixture, but this might do a lot better than my normal potting mixture. So in order to read, I go and I read while I'm walking on the treadmill. And these are what I'm reading right now. These ones have been very, very different from anything I've read before. There's one for pest control. This isn't that one. And then there's one for farming. And it's from Korea, South Korea. I haven't got into this one as much. It's a little bit more technical. It has some very interesting recipes, like how to make your own insect what's it called? Pesticide. But it's made out of soap. It's made out of soap that you make yourself. So it's kind of like a cast iron soap, I guess. They have recipes in here for all the stuff that they make. But I haven't used it yet because it feels very technical to me. I don't have a lot of the equipment that they're using. And I'm not making as big a garden as what they're doing. This is more like a commercial type of a setup. This is an old favorite. I find it inspiring, but kind of lacking in detail, to tell you the truth. A lot of people here on the channel have really recommended strongly that I don't till this year.
If you want your cardboard to hold down, you have to have it wet. Phew, it's hard.
Savoy spinach in here. Done really well. But I wanted to show you that we're trying to pick it quickly because we have some carrots. See that? I have carrots planted in here too. And once I have all the spinach pulled, all the spinach plucked, then it'll make space so that now the carrots can come through. So we got 2 harvests in one space. To tell you the truth. A lot of people here on the channel have really recommended strongly that I don't till this year. I'm struggling with that because the last 2 years I tilled very, very thoroughly. And I used commercial fertilizer along with deep mulch and rabbit manure and animal manure. I just pretty much threw everything at it that I could. Every year the garden gets better and every year the garden gets easier. And so I'm really struggling with the thought of not tilling. I just don't have enough money to pay for all the mulch that I need. Without the mulch, you really can't do a weedless gardening, you know, mulch garden thing. You really need a lot of mulch. Tons and tons and tons of mulch. So I found this one inspiring but not very practical. And then I got this at the library. I really prefer to get a book at the library and read it a couple times before I purchase it, and that way I'm not wasting money. So a lot of times I'll do an interlibrary loan or a request for a book and then wait to read it until it comes in. Just because, I mean, you know, this book was $25 and you get 4 books like this and there's $100. But anyway, the first time I looked at this book, I was not enthralled. I felt like it was just way too basic. But then I ran out of reading material on the treadmill, and so I'm like, oh, fine, I've still got it. I might as well go read it. And now I'm only on like page 7 after 2 or 3 hours of reading. Much deeper. It's much deeper. What he's really recommending is, I feel like it's more practical. They actually have a money-making farm. They make over $250,000 a year on, I think they said they have 2 acres in production, something like that. And so they're really talking about what has worked for them. And this year what I really, really want to do is some green manure, some green mulch. And that means it's going to be different. Our season is so short. We have a 90-day growing season. And so being able to get a green manure in while still allowing my plants to mature is going to be a struggle. That's going to be really something interesting to try and do. Plus the cost of the seeds, because our garden is it 10,000 square feet? No, it's 5,000 square feet. So anytime you try something new, you have expense going in, and you really have to kind of gauge whether or not it's worth the expense. I don't know yet if it will be worth the expense. But I do find that resources fall into my lap when I have new ideas, and so I'm going to kind of wait and see how that goes. So the No-Till Organic Vegetable Garden by Daniel Mays. Good book so far. I'm feeling more, I feel like I have more options with this one. This one just says, hey, don't till and put down some mulch. And as much as I love simplicity, I've already done that and I still had weeds and not as productive a garden as I wanted. So there's that. I think there's so many different options. And then I need to talk to you about my seed addiction. I buy seeds in bulk, like major bulk. I don't like to have seeds for just one row. I don't like to have seeds for just one year. And when I can get perennial seeds too, that's lovely. So these are just asparagus seeds. And then something else that I have in my kit for next year is a pruning kit and tree wound carrot, because what my peach tree is dying, and having this on hand in March and April means that I can take trimmings from my peach tree and go graft them onto my plum trees. Stone fruit to stone fruit, pips to pips, that kind of thing. These are my supplies. John and I had a conversation about how I'm not labeling things and things go to waste. Usually I use the tops of, let's see if I have any in here. I might not have any. Usually I use the tops of yogurt containers, like yogurt container lids, and I cut them into strips. But I don't seem to respect them after I put them in. Or I get overconfident and think that I know what everything is. And which is fine if you only have one variety of things. If you only have one variety of Brussels sprouts, then all you have to do is really just write down in your journal this type of Brussels sprout. But if you've got 47 different types of Brussels sprouts that you want to plant, then that's not as helpful as it could be. All right, these are going to be too long, I can already tell. They're going to be wobbly. And they might even shade out the seeds. Because I don't use a grow light generally. I just use the window. This time of year the sun is really low, so it comes in the window really nicely. So I always like to start with Tulsi Kapoor, and that's because I love it. It's magnificent. So Tulsi.
That is the stand they take. There are several spiders in every square inch. They are so thick on the field that there is hardly any space between them. I have found that where these pellets are covered with straw, the seeds germinate well. It will not rot, even in years of heavy rainfall.
So that's what these look like. They have a little, kind of like a Pez, is it a Pez dispenser or like a Tic Tac? I think it's like a Tic Tac container. All right, my next favorite thing is cutting celery. Okay, cutting. This right here is a Chinese celery. It's a cutting celery. It's not like the crunchy, put a bunch of peanut butter on it celery. It's like a soup celery. You could definitely put peanut butter on it if you wanted to, but what I do is I dehydrate these over the course of the summer, just laying them out to let them dry. And then once they're dried, I put them in a silicone bag, reusable bag, in the freezer, and then I use it for soup all year. So once again, I put it in on the top. I kind of poked it down. I could do just a teeny tiny bit of like covering like that, but if you're going to do that, you don't want to do very much because those are teeny seeds. So if I wanted to start saving seeds, I would need to make sure that I only plant one type of anything that I'm planting. And that way it can't cross-pollinate. And I also would need to make notes of what is a biennial and what is an annual. An annual self-seeds the first year. A biennial seeds the second year. The reason I push them down is that if you have air that the seeds are in, they don't have anything to anchor to, and when they come up, their little roots will be in the air instead of in soil with moisture, and they just kind of shrivel up and don't do anything. So I like to put these guys out in the hotbed in about the end of February. And the temperatures in the end of February are still freezing, day and night. But the hotbed keeps them warm even though they're herbs, which I think is just so fun. For hollyhocks, cutting celery, everything under here is a basil, so I'm going to keep the jugs on. Lemon balm, fennel. Alright, now here are my medicinals my medicinal herbs. One container of them. And I've used a lot of them up because I see that either I haven't used them or they have naturalized on my property. I already have lemon balm. I already have a lot of these things, again, naturalized out in the garden or out in the greenhouse or out by the side of the road. Again, they do, you know, things do self-seed. And then the bees love them. Okay, honeybee, one of you hold still. This yellow flowery seed would be considered a weed. It's called gumweed. As a medicinal herb, it is used for asthma. I try to keep some source of food for the bees all the time. These medicinal things, you don't use them, I mean, very often. When you're doing pretty good and you're growing your own food, even your herbal medicinals, you don't use that much. You really don't use that much of it. All right, so here are my tomatoes and peppers, could be, yep, tomatoes and peppers. These are the ones I'm a little obsessive about, and I always have too many. Always have too much. So the reason I have small amounts of these and massive amounts of these is because with greens you need a lot of seeds. With a tomato, it's one plant, it creates lots of tomatoes on that one plant. And yet with like beans, it does create a lot of beans, but it takes a lot of beans to fill you. With tomatoes, it doesn't take a huge number of tomatoes to fill you. Like, you'd eat half a tomato and be fine. If you ate half of a bean, you would not be full. And so for the plants that require a lot of plants in order to feed you, I have those in larger quantities. You know, these are a type of radish, larger quantity. Tomato seeds, one seed is going to put like 50, 100 tomatoes on it. This one little teeny tiny container, come on darn thing, one little teeny tiny container is enough. I put my seeds in very, very heavily, and the reason for that was so I wouldn't have to weed the row. I had no weeds. I mean, you can see over here, I don't have any weeds in that row. I didn't have any weeds in the beet row, and that's because as soon as the row was clear after being tilled, I put in my seeds, and I put them in way thicker than I needed to. Way thicker than what my family would eat. But by doing that, it means at the end of the season I have all this food left over. I didn't have to weed the row itself because it came in too thick. By the time the weeds came on, I had a row full of Swiss chard and a row full of beets. And so as long as we don't get too heavy of frost, these guys just keep growing. Same thing with the Swiss chard. And you fully did the strawberries.
Yep.
ground cherry for sure. So we'll do some ground cherries. They are like a, they're like what are they called? They use them in salsa. They are tomatillo. They're related to a tomatillo, but their fruit is more fruity than a tomatillo. And my grandfather-in-law actually got some to naturalize. I wish we could have got some seeds. The one plant that seems to have met its match is the ground cherries, which are a relative of tomatillos. They are a tomatillo, but they're sweet tomatillo. That plant has wilted down and it's not happy anymore. Okay. I don't know why it did that. There could be a lot of reasons why it did. It might be that everything else was choking it. It might be that because I harvested the branches off so aggressively, I weakened the plant itself. That's my bet, because I had only left one branch for the ground cherry to grow. It wants to be a bush. I didn't let it be a bush. I let it be one stalk, and I wonder if that is why the plant itself died. But we've got lots of fruit on the bed of the hotbed where it is. All right, so this is it. And parts of it look like it might still, no, it's pretty much dead. It has a little bit of green on it. You can make jam out of the little guys. Usually what you want to eat. They're called ground cherries for a reason. It's because when the fruit is ready, it falls on the ground. I don't know if you can see this, but this is what it should look like. See that? Ground cherries. Well named. And I've been trying to get the ground cherries to come back every year, but I need to give it a more sacred spot. One that is sacred from ducks and cats and too much shade and that kind of thing. Alright. So, by starting this early in the year, I can look and see what is it that I need to order more of? What is it that I already have enough of? My bulk seeds, these, I make sure I keep those topped up all the time. But as far as these like single packets, sometimes when you're feeling the blahs, the best thing you can do is just do. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just doing. Come through and then shut the door. Over to the other side. Pause. Tip. Just hold the top part. Just hold the top. Just hold the top, honey, and tip it.